Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Banyan Technologies Tire Tracks podcast. I'm Patrick Scolas, and continuing our discussions on AI in the logistics space, we're talking with Vooma and specifically their founder, Jesse Buckingham. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing very well, Patrick. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for being here. And before we get started, you sound very, very fancy. Where's the accent from?
Yeah, as I say, not from Alabama, right? I moved to the US 10 years ago, but I'm originally from Australia.
Okay.
So grew up there, but married an American woman, and I got two little American kids over here now, and so this is kind of my second home now here on the West Coast.
Now, did you come over before you met her or after?
It was all kind of intertwined, you know.
I was going to say, my thought was she went to Australia to get out of some snow, and then you came here, and now why the US over Australia when you could go back and forth and never have to deal with the season you don't want, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's hard to maintain a stable job with that setup, but maybe it's something in my life I'll be able to swing that. Nice.
That'll be the future. No, so you're the co-founder of Vooma here, and what is Vooma, and how did you come around to get to this idea and, where you're at now?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I'm co-founder of Vooma. We're a platform that enables logistics companies to build and manage their AI workers. And so we have
a little more of that now than maybe 5 years ago, huh?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of heat around it at the moment. But we enable brokerages, forwarders, and carriers to be able to build AI workers that can execute use cases all across the load lifecycle. So email quoting agents that can bid on spot rate, build loads, schedule appointments, handle inbound carrier calls, outbound carrier calls, track and trace. Really with the, to be able to orchestrate pretty complex workflows. So prior to this, I was the CEO of a group of logistics technology businesses, backed by private equity funds. So we had a fleet inspection platform that was used by a lot of truck and trailer leasing businesses, CMS platforms. Not like focused on final mile. So these were used by delivery businesses, but full TMSs, and then led the acquisition of Trucker Tools prior to it. Recently obviously sold to AT, and Carrie led that business and did an awesome job. And but I was involved there, and then stepped out to build Vooma with my co-founder, who comes from the world of self-driving trucks. So he was a founding engineer with Kodiak Robotics, which is one of the leaders in self-driving trucks. That's awesome. Announced that they're going public now, which is very cool for them. But Mike was employee number 2 there. He built their motion planning, controls, and safety teams, which is a lot of the brains of a self-driving vehicle. And so what we really teamed up.
He's pretty smart.
That's the other way of describing it. Yeah. He knows how to build difficult things. And so we kind of teamed up really with this view to applying kind of similar principles to, you think driving a self-driving vehicle, it's like you've got to make decisions in uncertainty and get them right. And so we're applying a lot of similar frameworks to
maybe with a little softer edge, you're not going to plow a car into the ravine. You might just be 10 minutes late on a pickup. Yeah, exactly.
Errors are costly, but there's 100,000 pounds going down a freeway, and then reference numbers wrong on a load.
This is the relaxing of retirement from the high stress of how are we going to put these on highways with other people? Yeah. And then and for your sake, you were in the different logistics spaces before. Where did that start with you? Where, I'm always curious about, why did logistics take hold of your life? I know for me, it was kind of by accident, and some people were born into it, quite frankly. Where does that start with for you, Jesse?
Yeah, I've always been very passionate about technology and its ability to impact on the world. But I've also felt that, I moved over to the kind of the coast, and that there's just a lot of important real world industries that folks in San Francisco don't often have a lot of exposure to, and that you get a lot of very talented engineers that kind of know their own developer problems, and then a lot of people that have a deep understanding of industries that kind of like power the physical world.
Yeah.
There's, it's changing, but historically not often a lot of overlap. And so I've always just kind of been passionate about leaning into those spaces where you get the opportunity to try to like bring world-class engineering to bear on these problems that actually impact the real economy. And so that was always my like motivating factor. But then the way that it came into logistics was a little bit of a turn because I started running this fleet inspection platform. I was a CEO there, and then we saw this opportunity to start acquiring and growing other logistics companies. And kind of got into the full truckload.
They're like, want you to go acquire some logistics company. And you're like, any more specific than that? They're like, no, you got this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like, it's such like a massive and important industry, and
it touches everything. And what's ridiculous is unless you're in it, it's the unseen industry somehow.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I fully agree.
And with that, and it being unseen, and I think another part you said is kind of pulling these pieces that generally might not be together. We're seeing a lot more of that. Everybody's trying to do more with less since the COVID onset, but with AI popping up, it seems really to be this center focal point of every industry for everything. And I've talked to quite a few people on AI within logistics, but you guys are doing it differently than I'm talking to, because it's not, hey, we're doing this background for our analytics. It's really more of this front end. And we've talked about, like a chat box, but I'm not going to a web page to go to your agent. How am I interacting with it? Because I from what I understand, that's the unique aspect, or at least one of the unique aspects for Vooma.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, AI means a lot of different things. Previously, often when people talking about AI, they were talking about machine learning, which is kind of predictive analytics, and that's a very powerful type of AI for the right use case. But it's usually quite focused and narrow. Like it's very good to predict the price of a truck over the next. Yeah.
But you couldn't ask it to like describe a truck, just from like there. You can't. You could, but it wouldn't be as good if you haven't lined it up and set it up for that one thing.
Yeah, and so language models allow us to actually build. I mean, ultimately it's software, but essentially agents that can communicate. So it can understand, human text, voice. It can perform actions, and so it really like unlocks a set of use cases that were not previously addressable through predictive analytics. And so what are agents like? Very practically, what it looks like is if you are a logistics professional, the agent will sometimes be acting in the background. So, a spot quote request might come into your inbox. The AI will identify that spot quote has hit your inbox. It will extract out the relevant information. It will go and look up a bunch of different benchmark rates. It will help to draft a response to that and then fire that off to the customer. You could be scheduling an appointment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the load kind of hits your TMS, and then that triggers the agent to look at the shipment and figure out what the right appointment times are, and then either call, email, or navigate to a web browser to be able to go and book that appointment. Could be that you post one of our agents on a load when you post it on DAT or Truckstop, and you've got carriers calling in. The AI can handle that phone call end to end. So verifying the carrier's MC by looking it up on tools like Highway or RMIS or others, figuring out what load, negotiating, even issuing the rate con. And then there's other use cases where you can, dispatch work to the AI, right? Where, it is sort of a co-pilot or an assistant that sits there to serve you. And so you might say, hey, can you check on this load for me? And I'll come back and tell you what the latest update is. And if that's not good enough, you could say, cool, let's go and like check call that carrier. And so there's a bunch of sort of ways. Some of these like the actual logistics professional can drive, the others that the AI is kind of monitoring and observing and taking action in the background.
And is that more of, it being, an assistant or My Girl Friday versus it's actually, saying, hey, yeah, that's the price I want. Go ahead and dispatch. And you're sitting back with your feet up going, man, I wonder where my trucks are going today. Like where's the line between I wanted to automate it, but maybe I should press the button. Like where is that with Vooma, and what is your perspective going to that point? And is that your idea, or is that something you worked with brokers, carriers, to get to that?
Yeah, so it's definitely like this is a continuum, and it's not sort of one or the other. A lot of it is around what is the level of your confidence in the AI to make decisions itself in some environment, and what is the AI's confidence in making the decision. So, for example, you might say, hey, if for an auto quoting scenario, you're like, hey, if this is, a dry van load on a load lane that we move a lot, when it's not a weekend pickup or a Friday pickup and there's no topping required, I feel pretty confident.
It's your bread and butter run, right? Yeah.
Let that rip. Whereas, you'll have some scenarios where the AI will not have uncertainty. So it might facing it, you're scheduling an appointment and the facility comes back and says, hey, that PO is not in our system. Well, that's probably a scenario where either you need to build an SOP for the agent to be able to figure out and resolve that issue, or maybe that's a situation where you kick it up to the human and say, hey, I've run into this issue. And so it's a lot of this is a collaboration, right?
And I had a great moment where I just imagined Hal from Space, hey Hal, I can't find the PO, being confused. Yeah. And it's welcome to being a broker. You're not just software anymore.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I love it. It's sort of like a dystopian version of Hal. We try to think more about the her version of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and of course that would be much more, because no one's taking this thing to space either. But it brings up a lot of point that it has a confidence level, and then is it displaying? So walk me through, as you were saying, and it sounds like there's probably 2 or 3 different ways that your system is helping and using AI. But tell me more about the directly into email aspect, because as if there's anything that I know about logistics, it's either you have software because someone told you need it, or you begrudgingly are still using Excel and an Outlook and email, and you don't see any reason to do anything differently. So I'm very curious about how that works, because I would imagine that the second you go, you don't have a separate login, it's just your email, that's going to open a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah. I mean, you're picking up on something that I think is quite important. Logistics is very fragmented. There's something like 200,000 shippers, 20-odd thousand brokerages, there's 300,000 or 400,000 trucking companies, and you've got everyone on different systems, right? Or no systems at all. And so the industry has ended up converging on these protocols around email and phone calls,
right,
in a lot of scenarios, or EDI, which is not maybe the best way to transfer data, but everyone kind of uses it.
But right? It's the lowest hanging fruit, right? It's the lowest obstacle or bar, because everybody can open a Gmail account. You have a cell phone already, and the banks are already using EDI, so get with it.
Yeah, it's exactly. And so, I mean, I think it's been interesting over the last 10 years. I think there's been a lot of attempts in the logistics industry to sort of try to get people on common platforms, but the truth is it's too fragmented. And so it ends up sort of falling back, and a lot of these communications ends up happening in these channels. And that was a problem, right? Because previously you needed a lot of people that were doing quite sort of tedious and transactional work to be able to sit and man those channels.
Absolutely.
But that's what's powerful about AI, is that you can kind of have your cake and eat it too. In a way, you can reduce the cost to being able to transact. So you don't have to get set up with a shipper now, instead of saying, hey, I need a 3 or 4 month EDI implementation that's going to cost me thousands of dollars and you thousands of dollars. In the meantime, I'm not earning any business.
Yeah.
With AI, you can just say, hey, why don't you just fire that off out of your TMS, or just send it over email and we'll create a type. So it kind of turns your email into an API or channel where you can have the flexibility and speed and lower setup costs, but be able to get the same productivity benefits.
That's a great statement. Turn your email into API. And with that, is this something that is more, I know in your software past life, you talked about the TMS as being final mile specific. Is this something that is specifically targeted at truckload maneuvers, or is this LTL? What are there limitations? Are there specific, better applied modes? What does that look like?
Yeah, today we work with folks really across multiple modes. Obviously, I mean, truckload being the biggest sector, we started there.
I feel like that'd be easiest for your AI to be like, oh, that much needs this kind of cargo. There's the lane, can get pricing out. Whereas LTL is like, all right, now I got to go check how much is going back and forth from there. How full is my truck?
For sure, but we do LTL load building and quoting today. It's a little bit more complex. There's a little bit more back and forth, but for like an LTL scenario, it's a perfect application, because what we see in LTL, right, is especially in LTL brokerage, the margins are very slim. So, and if maybe you're a truckload broker that does some LTL, you having to spend 3 or 4 times going back and forth clarifying the NMFC code. And
you've basically lost your margin because you spend all the time.
Already.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a power. We're building agents that can handle all of that back and forth, make sure you're calculating what the freight class is, hitting a bunch of APIs, helping to select the carrier so that you want to present to your customer based on their preferences, being able to actually accept that and book it kind of end to end. And so pretty powerful. And that changes the game there. There's good business to be done, but a lot of this is figuring out how you reduce your cost to serve for these types of business, types of business that were previously challenging to do.
Plus, as I'm just thinking and visualizing it, it's 3D Tetris. So a computer can, an AI logic can do that kind of math, that cubic dimensions, how much space I have, how can this be stacked, et cetera, where's the best stops. And it makes a lot of sense. So is there, and we'll go into more benefits later, but I'm a glass half empty kind of guy. What kind of cons are there to AI, or does the customer have any negative feedback, and probably a minority to your mass demographic, but do you see any pushback for the AI? Because initially we saw a lot of pushback to AI, but I think nowadays everybody's kind of like, well, yeah, I use ChatGPT to tell my sister happy birthday because I really don't want to talk to her, all the way from, everybody's using a part of it somewhere in their lives for the most part.
Yeah, totally. Look, I think it's rapidly evolving. On the customer side, there's a bit more sensitivity. And so most of the time when we implement there, we're implementing as an extension of the person who is controlling the interaction. So we're taking a lot of, in a quoting scenario, we may not respond directly, but we'll do all the legwork. We're going to, you don't want somebody going in and entering shipment data in 4 different sources to try to kind of make sense of it and figure out what we quoted last time and what does the TMS say, right? If you can automate all of that, present something, and then they can add their sort of human flair and verify, that's dramatic improvements of their productivity, and ultimately provides a better service to our customers. We have a customer that we implemented where they were using us to help accelerate their workflow, but their customers were like, you guys are responding, you used to take you half an hour. Now we're getting these quotes back in 3 minutes. Is this a bot responding? And they were like, no, it's actually not. It's our humans doing this, but they're doing it.
The bot's telling me all of the information that it would take me the 30 minutes to go find.
Superpowers, right? And so that's a really awesome experience. And that's kind of what we, a lot of people in logistics, they have something they want and they want their needs met. And if it's done high quality, efficiently, that's often what matters the most. On the customer side, the human dimension is really important. But often, if you're posting on a load board and you've got a carrier calling in, some people, it's a very small fraction that don't want to, one is that they often can't tell that it's AI, right? Because the quality is really, really good.
As long as the email doesn't start with, I hope this finds you well, because, I don't know why every AI thinks that is how humans greet each other.
I don't know. That's, exactly. You gotta control these things. But for voice calls, most of the time people can't tell. Of course,
really,
we recommend customers you should tell someone if they're interacting with AI. But they want to know the load details. They want to know the appointment times. They want to know how heavy it is and if there's any flexibility. These are the things that they want really, really quickly. So they can make a decision about whether or not it's a good move for them.
It's me calling the old movie phone to see what the times are, and I don't want to talk to anybody really. I just need these pieces of information, and I'll go from there. Okay,
right. And they're sitting on hold most of the time. 30 or 40% of those calls are sitting on hold for 3 minutes. Right? That's not a good experience, actually.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so that being a positive, what, as far as speeding up the workflow being one of the benefits and one of the reasons somebody interacts with Vooma, what can you see from a rating side? As I'm with a TMS company selling to logistics space. The rating process is always such an important piece. Obviously you talked about confidence level, but and margins, what does this do? Is this going to have any effect on the overall logistics trend of pricing, whether it's your carrier, your broker, or your customer, now that we have this influx of technology and it's making it easier? Is that going to reduce the price, or is it just going to make, I would see it as a reduced cost because I have less people doing it, but I don't know enough. Otherwise I'd be a much better investor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you sort of think about what this presents is in logistics, if you are able to price aggressively to your customer, generally you're going to win and take share. So if you implement technology that allows you to reduce your cost per load, then you get the opportunity to bid freight at a more aggressive price maybe than your peers. So you win share and you get this flywheel turning, because as you start to grow volumes, you're often able to then buy better on the carrier side. And so that's how you get this flywheel turning. And so a lot of it starts though with hey, what is your cost to serve?
Mm-hmm.
Particularly in the current market, right, where rates aren't where I think we want them to be. Your main lever there is thinking then about, okay, what is your operating efficiency and how do you continue to scale your load volumes with the same team that you've got in place? And that's a lot of what AI enables you to do. A lot of our customers, they implement this and they see dramatic improvements in their efficiency, but these are all growth-oriented brokerages, right? That, they're not necessarily looking to let people go, but they want to, they've got ambitious goals to grow 20 to 100, sometimes even more % over the next kind of 12 to 18 months. And they want to figure out how long can they delay hiring that next person, right?
Or how long is it going to take to find that next person, let alone onboard that next person?
That's, a lot of this, right? Especially when you think about some of these jobs that are focused on order entry, navigating portals to schedule. A lot of these are it's hard to train and retain people in these jobs because they're not that, that's not the part that people love. When you talk to folks about why they love logistics, it's because you're always solving a problem. They develop a relationship with the chip. Those are the things that people like. No one's sitting there thinking oh my God, I
just love TMSs. I just love TMSs. I want to stare at this screen all day because I want to press the button over. You're right. It's a means to an end. I like the industry. I like the paycheck and I like winning business. So, and what kind of systems? Because I would imagine that, the AI agents aren't standing alone that you're propping up. What kind of systems are they connecting to on these brokers, these carriers that you're dealing with?
Yeah, it's a very wide range of systems. Obviously the TMS, so we integrate with a number of different TMSs through a bunch of integration methods to be able to retrieve and put data back in once the agent does some action. We also integrate with a lot of the different rating engines, benchmarking tools all across a lot of the big ones in the industry to be able to help power our quoting product.
Right.
And then we integrate with, carrier verification tools. Really, if you think about what a person does in a brokerage today, they spend probably 30 to 40% of their time in their email, 30 to 40% of their time in the TMS, and then 20% of their time in sort of a range of different other tools, load boards, carrier verification tools, et cetera. And so our agent needs to be able to interact with all of those systems as well. And so some of those will have direct API connections. Other times will, the AI can actually sort of navigate to web pages and et cetera to retrieve and put data.
I was going to say, you probably have an easier time of that than some players in the past because you're already using AI that's good at crawling through data. So you can get these integrations in place. So if we're in play and, you have customers that you've been doing, and how long has Vooma been on the scene?
Yeah, we started the business about 2 years ago.
Okay. Are you at a place where are you still at a spot where you're trying to grab more ground, or are you already looking to the next level of what you can do with AI? And if you are, I'm curious, what does that look like? And is there an opportunity for any of this to go customer facing rather than on the forwarder, brokerage, carrier side? And even if it isn't, like you said, there's opportunity abound regardless. But from someone that works both sides, I'm always curious, is there something that makes this just one side of the coin?
No, there isn't. I think that there's a journey here, right? Like today, a lot of our focus is helping logistics team perform their work better and more efficiently. But over time, we expect to see, customers and carriers being able to interface with AIs that represent the business to, a lot of these transactions. We're already doing that with a lot of these pieces, right? When you've got carriers calling in on loads, that's some variant of it, but you could imagine extensions of that, right? Where, the AI can help a carrier with whatever their needs are. Maybe they want to check in on a payment status, or today you get a lot of people. So our aspiration here is to be able to build a unified experience for both customers and carriers to be able to interact with a logistics company's sort of AI representatives, where that makes sense, right? Where that is, there's some sort of functional interaction that needs to happen, that AI can do really well and really quickly for them.
Now, talking about AI and what it can do quickly and well, and probably something that you touched on that I went right over. We talked about dispatching. We talked about kind of defining that, but on the auditing and kind of the accounting side on the back end, is there a part of your product that's touching that, and is there a lot of value? Like, how is that different of a play style too? Because obviously we've talked about the front end, how that can be different, how you could manage a team of agents to get you to the spot that you need as the human to get involved. What does that look like on the audit side?
Yeah. So today on the sort of back office side, most of what we help folks with is the sort of retrieval and collecting of documentation.
Okay.
There are folks in the industry that focus specifically on those audit cases that are really good solutions. I think it's an excellent application of AI because there's such a lot of this is having a very nuanced understanding of what are your contracts, what are the requirements.
Yeah.
We actually, if it's on the carrier side, like what did we agree to? What are they going to charge us for?
Yeah.
Did we, approve that? Did we not? Is that part of our agreement? What should we be billing back to the customer? And with the right system, you can build AI that can handle a lot of that.
Yeah, and I guess what is the, we're talking a little bit about the benefit here, but looking out to the landscape, if I'm a carrier or broker that's not starting to utilize these technologies, whether it's AI or just kind of the integrated aspect, even if it's some of the pre-existing software, what do I have to lose? Or can I kind of still carve out my corner and work with my Excel and my Outlook without getting anything new? What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's going to be exceptions to this, but in general, I think there's some businesses that are fearful of adopting AI. But the dynamic that is going to play out here, in my opinion, is that the businesses that figure out how to effectively implement AI are going to be able to win and outcompete. And it's going to be, and that's not the business that you should be scared of. The business that you should be scared of is the one that is not doing this, because I think, we're talking about it like in just a few years, this will be table stakes for operating. If you're playing in a competitive market, you're going to be going up against people that have radically different cost structures because they're making these decisions. And so I think it is going to be challenging. Now, there are situations where, obviously the higher the level of complexity and the more nuance that there is, then it's going to be AI today is especially effective in these kind of like high volume, repetitive scenarios. But if you're, say you're doing like over-dimensional, heavy haul, extreme ticket sizes, massive permitting complexities, a few moves, but like need to make sure that you nail every single one of them. It's going to be quite a while before AI is like better than you at like navigating all of those. But if you're playing in like dry van reefer flatbed, where like people want to be working with logistics companies that, you know, obviously provide great service, but need to be competitive on cost. If you don't have the cost structure to be able to compete on a pricing perspective, it's going to be very hard for you in, you know, 2, 3, 5 years, in my opinion.
And along with that, like you said, that, you know, some of those pieces, it wouldn't necessarily be the right thing. What would have to change? What would AI have to learn? Would there have to be a jump in technology, or would there just need to be more and more data fed to it? Where's the ceiling now, and what's holding us there? Is it the cost of chips, you know, and the resources that AI kind of burns through? What is that at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's interesting because the models now are extremely capable. You know, if you think currently the state of the art is that we have AI that is, you know, PhD level intelligence in a lot of difficult tasks. I think, you know, the best AI is the 75th best coder. By the end of the year, you know, AI will probably be better at computer programming and maths than any human that exists, right?
Yeah.
Pretty wild. Now, that is not the bar that is required to move freight. Freight, right? It's
there's a reason we were the redheaded stepchild of technology, because at the end of the day, if you put enough time and if you call enough people, you can make it work.
Totally. And so the question is more about like context, right? Because freight is really hard. Like the challenge of automating freight has been that there is a ton of tribal knowledge and nuance that goes into it. And so as you work in it, you just develop a lot of these like, oh, I know that, you know, this facility, you know, you've got to call this person and it's going to take 4 hours to unload. So make sure you schedule it. Like, you know, this carrier never runs across the like mountains in winter, so I'm not going to give them that load. But like, you know, there's just all of this stuff. So if you think about what's required for AI to be able to perform these tasks effectively, you need ways for the AI to have awareness of all of that knowledge. And so a lot of the barrier is not necessarily raw intelligence, but it's constructing systems that allow.
How do we download the 35-year experience logistics worker brain into the computer is kind of what you're saying. Obviously an extreme example, because I don't think anyone wants a plug in there, but yeah. No, and so we're talking about AI within logistics, and you know, it's very much from my side looked like a vast improvement, or at least a kind of a hyper jump in some of these aspects where you needed, like you said, I like that 30 minutes became a 3 minutes, and it's still a person doing it. It's just having all the answers right there. I guess the only question is, does anyone have any reason why they shouldn't use it? It seems strange, and I might have already kind of asked this in a different way, but I'm not hearing a situation outside of maybe right now. You were saying the heavy haul and kind of hyper complex, but even then, pieces of that administrative work could be AI used. I don't see any facet or industry that AI isn't going to take part in. Is, from your perspective, is there a black hole or, you know, AI shouldn't touch? Or and I always ask this one, is there any point where, as you talked about the coders, I think, when does that one kind of scares me, because at what point do the machines start talking to each other in a language we don't understand? And does anything ever get past the point of pulling the plug, or is that all just sci-fi nonsense that, you know, made really great movies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I think there are real. It is like a worthy conversation to be happening about where this goes. There is some version of AI that could be very powerful, and I think it's important to like take those risks seriously. And I think people are in general taking those risks seriously. But when it comes back to, you know, adopting AI in one's daily life or in their business, you know, I think we're in this transitionary period where that question is being asked. I think in 3 to 5 years, it will just be a
better rate. Yeah.
Like there's almost, you know, we see this in like some domains, like being a doctor or being a lawyer. There's a lot of these questions of I
think right there is a great call out right there. Yeah. When someone's saying, hey, we should see if this AI software can do surgery with the lasers, the robotic lasers we already have, that's when someone should go like, we need like 20 years of research on something like that before you throw a person in there.
Yeah, but there's going to be some scenarios, like for example, like medical diagnoses.
Right.
Like I think within 3 to 5 years, today it might be seen as negligent to rely on AI too much. I think we'll actually shift, and it will be negligent not to be using AI for something, because the results are just going to be much better when you have sort of human plus machine.
I like that. And it's a move from, oh man, you don't have enough people, so you're just throwing software at it, to we wouldn't have a person do it because this software or this AI is going to pick up on it that much quicker and, more standardized of a response out. Now that is a great point, especially from a question where I asked negatively. Way to turn that one around. No. So I always like to, Jesse, this has been fantastic talking with you. And it sounds like Vooma is in a great place, not only with its current customers, but with anyone that would reach out to you specifically, not only because it's basically giving you a team via AI that you can work under you and then you take all the credit for, but also it could be as simple as staying in your inbox.
Yeah.
So, and now that I've summarized that and I didn't butcher, the Vooma description, what's something you have to say to anyone listening, whether it's on AI, whether it's on Vooma, or whether it's on the logistics space? Use whatever platform I have here. What's your message, other than hello mom, as I've gotten from someone?
Yeah, my perspective on this is, AI is a means to an end. And so if you're thinking about like use cases and workflows in your business that are causing you pain, or you feel like could be done more efficiently, have a conversation about whether or not AI could be one way to solve that problem, to unlock it. Mm-hmm. But I think, as always, like this is a tool, right? But the thing that matters is the like problem to be solved, and does the tool solve the problem better than alternatives? And so keeping a very like practical orientation around it, because I think it is easy to get caught up in the hype that everything kind of needs to shift to like agents, and that's not at all our posture at all. It's very much like, hey, what are we trying to solve, and how do we make sure that we deliver the value that we're expecting, and move very sort of thoughtfully through that. And that's kind of our sort of ethos. And so, yeah, welcome anyone who wants to have a conversation about, their workflow and what it looks like, and where there might be opportunities to kind of take that first step.
That was awesome and well said. And just quickly, where would someone go to find out more?
Yeah, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm at Jesse Buckingham. Vooma.com is our website. Feel free to reach out there. If you submit a demo request, you might even get a call from someone that maybe is or is not a human. But
he's got all of the AI to sound just as smooth as him, so you won't know if it's Jesse or not. Yeah,
exactly. No, but we'd love to have a conversation.
No, Jesse, thank you so much, and thank you for being here and giving us some of this information, because someone's got to be smart here, and it sure isn't going to be me. So I really appreciate your time, and thanks everybody for watching or listening to another Banyan Technologies podcast of Tire Tracks here, as we focused on AI and logistics. And Jesse Buckingham from Vooma, thank you so much.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it.
Hey, have a great one.